So we're going to jump right into our first session of the day. We have Dr. Martha Mendieta joining us. To the world, she is a Mexican physician, editor, translator, and a long-time advocate for polio survivors. Her professional trajectory spans clinical medicine, microbiology, scientific journalism, medical translation, and leadership role in public health and Alzheimer's care. To us at Rotary World Disability Advocacy, she is also our incoming elected co-president for the Rotary Club of World Disability, July 2026. She is the chair of the health pillar under which this very summit falls, and she is one of our great leaders and a lady that we truly admire. Welcome, Dr. Martha. The session and the floor.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Sonia, for your introduction and for your kind words. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Carles Fontcuberta from Rotary Spain District 2202, who will present the topic Aging-Related Disabilities. Dr. Fontcuberta is a medical doctor graduated from the Clinical Hospital of the University of Barcelona and specialized in internal medicine. He also has degrees in hospital management and a Master of Business Administration. He's now retired. He became very interested on post-polio syndrome, PPS, despite not being a polio survivor himself. Dr. Fontcuberta is the author of the book Post-Polio, The Long Shadow of the Virus, and he is dedicating himself to promoting awareness and understanding of post-polio syndrome as widely as possible. This presentation, Aging-Related Disabilities, distinguishes between aging as a lifelong process and old age as a stage of life. It explores how disability is influenced not only by health conditions, but also by environmental and social contexts. It explores how life course factors such as education, employment, stress, and poverty accumulate over time and contribute to disability and well-being in later life. Dr. Fontcuberta's native language is Spanish, but he chose to deliver his presentation in English. To ensure that he could communicate his ideas comfortably and effectively, he pre-recorded his presentation. Those wishing to learn more or ask questions may contact him at his email that appears on the last slide. Welcome, Dr. Fontcuberta.
It's an honor for me as a person, as a doctor, and as a Rotarian to share with you a topic about which we have learned a lot in the last decades. I want to start my presentation with a comment that I think is essential because people from different parts of the world are attending this online talk. Out of respect for everyone here today, whatever country you come from, whatever religion you practice, and whatever culture you belong to, I want to highlight that my talk is placed in what we call the Western Call, which is not and should not be considered the same as other cultures in the world. Topics like old age, aging, or disability have different approaches and different solutions in the many cultures of our world today. I am also aware that there are places in the world where the main priorities far above aging or disability are water scarcity, hunger, infectious disease, or armed conflicts. Therefore, it's possible that some people attending this talk will feel more identified than others during my presentation. I hope I don't make anyone uncomfortable. The title of the talk obliges me to comment on three concepts: old age, aging, and disability, and to relate them to each other. Today, I will not speak only from theoretical knowledge, although I will include it, but also from my own life experience and with real examples lived by me or very close to me. Okay, Don, let's start. Talking about aging is not talking about others, it's talking about us, about our most probable future. Longevity is probably one of the most significant human achievements of the last century, because aging is not a problem, it's a privilege that not all generations have had. Every word we share here today is not only theory, but an invitation to look at ourselves with honesty, with humor, and with a bit of tenderness. And understanding this well is a way to prepare ourselves to live better, more fully, and with less fear. We are living in a historical moment without precedent. The World Health Organization proposed a deep conceptual change. Dr. Margaret Chan, Director General of the World Health in 2015, expressed it in a revolutionary way when she said something like this: "The loss of capacity associated with aging is not always related to chronological age." These sentences, in my opinion, means a very profound conceptual change. When the World Health Organization says that chronological age matters little, it's telling us something deeply liberating. We are not prisoners of the calendar. We are not in a prison. We are free to manage this stage of life. Disability appears when there is a mismatch between person and their environment, not only when the body becomes ill. We can be, in many ways, the architects of this stage. The question we should ask is not why do we age, but what do we do with life when it becomes longer? As I said, in just one century, in many parts of the world, life has expanded in a way that no previous generation could have imagined. This paradigm shift is not only theoretical, it's a huge practical consequences. It means that two people of the same age can have completely different lives, not because of genetics, but because opportunities, habits, environments, and supports. It means that old age is not a fixed destination, and that aging is a process we can shape. And it means, above all, that we have room for action as individuals, as communities, and as societies. We are obliged to abandon the idea that age is a number that determines what a person can or cannot do. But while life has become longer, our social, health, urban, and cultural structures continue working as if nothing had changed. The World Health Organization defines healthy aging as the ability to maintain functionality, that is, to continue doing what one values, what one wants, and what one needs to do. Intrinsic capacities such as strength, mobility, cognition, or vitality are dynamic, modifiable, and influenced by many factors. And functional ability depends both on these intrinsic capacities and on the environment in which we live. Aging is the set of biological, psychological, and social changes that occur throughout life. It doesn't start at 60 or 70 years old. It begins when we are born and continues without stopping. It's progressive because of the inevitable physical, cognitive, and social changes. It's universal because we all age, although at different speeds. It can be positive or negative because we are not only talking about negative consequences, such as functional losses, but also positive consequences such as maturity, learning, and experience linked to aging. Old age is normally associated with advanced age, although the exact age depends on cultural and social factors. It has a beginning that in many contexts is placed around 65 years old. It's characterized by visible personal and social changes, retirement, greater physical vulnerability, but also more free time, calmer, and accumulated wisdom. It is the same for everyone. It depends on health, resources, lifestyle, social support. Old age and aging are not the same. The key difference is that aging is a process, while old age is a stage within that process. Aging is gradual. Old age is the final phase of the life cycle. You can age well or age badly, but that doesn't automatically determine how your old age will be. Old age is not only a biological process, it's a cultural construction. Here begins a fundamental change of perspective. It's a new stage with new identities, new dreams, and new needs. Disability is not a personal attribute, but a sign that culture has not updated its tools for a longer life. To understand how cultural old age is, we only need to observe how it changed depending on the country and the historical period we look at. In classical Greece, it was a synonym of wisdom. In Middle Age, fragility. In the 20th centuries, retirement. None of this is biology. It's narrative, an important nuance. We continue imagining old age as an ending, when it's a stage that can last 30 or 40 years. No other stage of life lasts so long, and yet it's the one we have thought about the least. If we stop seeing old age as a problem and start seeing it as a long, diverse stage full of possibilities, then the way we design cities, we design health structures or social policies or interpersonal relationships also change. Narrative matter because they end up determining how we treat older people, how they see themselves, and what expectations they have about their lives. If we change the narrative, the experience changes, and even reality can exchange. Today, old age is a territory in transition. It's not decline, not withdrawal, nor automatic wisdom. We live longer, but we continue thinking about old age with categories from the past. Old age is also a mirror. Each society shows its soul and its true human spirit by how it treats those who no longer work, no longer produce, or no longer participate socially as before. Old age forces us to ask ourselves if we believe in human dignity only when it's efficient or also when it's vulnerable. There are countries where older people are at the center of community, and others where they become invisible. The mirror shows us how we treat fragility, how we treat time, how we treat dependency, how we treat diversity. It shows whether we value maturity or youth, reflection or immediacy. It shows whether we truly know how to care or if we only try to manage people and moments. And that mirror sometimes shows us an uncomfortable image of ourselves as individuals and as society. Are we a society that accompanies or a society that abandons? A society that listens or one that silences? A society that is grateful or one that only tolerates? Disability in old age shows us what kind of society we are. And the question is not, what do we do with so many older people? The question is, what kind of society we could become? Or what do we do with a society that has not adapted to its own success? Because disability linked to age is not an inevitable destiny. It's modifiable, it's preventable, it's socially constructed. And if it's socially constructed, it can be socially transformed. The British professor Michael Marmot, professor of epidemiology and public health in London, summarized it with a sentence that should be in all public policies. Health in old age is the mirror of the social justice of a society. The life course theory, described for the first time 100 years ago, has its main theoretical reference in Glenn Elder and his book Children of the Great Depression, published in 1974. It's a way of analyzing human development as a continuous and dynamic process from birth to death. This theory reminds us of something essential. Old age doesn't begin at 65. It begins in childhood, and all the events of our life leave a mark of us. Nutrition leaves a mark. Education leaves a mark. Working condition leaves a mark. Stress, poverty leaves a mark. And these marks accumulate not suddenly, but slowly, silently, like sediment that settles at the bottom of a river, as you can see in the image of this slide. Therefore, when we talk about disability in old age, we are not only talking about muscle, bones, or joints. We are talking about decades of accumulated inequalities. A few years ago, I met two men of the same age, 74 years old. One had worked all his life in an office with regular hours, holidays, stability, and access to healthcare. The other had been a construction laborer since he was 14, with intermittent jobs, extreme physical effort, and periods of unemployment. Biologically, they were the same age. Functionally, they live in different worlds. Besides, the first walked every morning, participated in cultural activities, and took care of these grandchildren. The second had chronic pain, reduced mobility, and an insufficient pension. It was not genetics. It was not bad luck. It was biography. Life course remind us that old age is not an accident, it's a consequence. Therefore, if we want to improve old age, we must improve the entire life trajectory. The relationship between life attitude and aging is a direct relationship. The attitude with which a person relates to their life directly influences how they age and how they face a disability that may appear unexpectedly. The way we interpret and accept the change in our body is also decisive. People who keep interest, curiosity, and emotional connections usually adapt better to the physical and social challenge that come with age. This attitude supports autonomy, participation in the community, and the sense of purpose, understood as the feeling that what we do gives meaning to our life. These three pillars increase our resilience and our emotional well-being. As a result, these three pillars protect us against functional decline. In the end, aging well doesn't depend only on the body, but also on the way each person decides to be in the world. Life attitude doesn't eliminate the challenges of aging or disability, of course, but it does determine quality of life and happiness. Cultivating self-care habits, maintaining meaningful relationships, and keeping an open attitude toward learning. These would be the goals, without forgetting that older adults who adopt and maintain the essential habit of exercising regularly experience a clear improvement in their overall health, both in qualitative terms and quantitative, physical well-being, and functional capacity. Regular physical activity acts as a powerful protective factor against cardiovascular, metabolic, and locomotor system disease, among many others. It also plays a decisive role in preventing sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength, a condition that can significantly limit autonomy and quality of life in later years. It isn't only about thinking positively, but about keeping an active disposition toward our well-being, your relationship, and the inevitable change of time. A person who understands aging as a natural stage and not a constant loss tends to look for solutions, support, and self-care strategies. A real problem is that many people lose their life project because if they live many years, they start losing their people, their partners dies, they lose friends and close family. A fatalistic view can lead to avoiding activities, reducing mobility, or isolating oneself, which accelerate decline and increase the risk of dependency. Life attitude acts like a filter. It doesn't change the facts, but it changes the way we live them. When a sudden disability appears, this difference becomes even more evident. People with a flexible and resilient attitude usually participate more in rehabilitation, accept technical aids without feeling ashamed of walking with a cane, and reorganize their life to keep as much autonomy as possible. They also rely more on their social network, which reduces emotional impact and helps adaptation. On the other hand, people who see disability as a personal failure may experience more frustration, isolation, and difficulty accepting changes. Chronological age is a terrible indicator. You can imagine judging the quality of a book by the number of its pages. Chronological age tells us how much time has passed, but it tells us nothing about how time has been lived. One person may walk every day, participate in activities, live in accessible neighborhood, and have a strong social network. Another person with the same age may live in a 4th floor without an elevator, with chronic pain and in complete social isolation. For these people, each age is the same. Life is not. Functional age aligns much more closely with reality. It allows us to see people as they really are, not as the calendar says they should be. A neighbor of mine, 84 years old, once told me, "I'm not old because I go out every day." And she was right. The key question is not how old are you, but what do you need to keep doing what you want to do. Functional age, what a person can do, how they move, how they participate, is infinitely more important than chronological age. A few months ago, I met an 80-year-old woman who lived alone in a small apartment. When I first saw her, I thought she would need help for almost everything. But when I talked to her, I discovered that she walked every day, did stretching exercises, cooked, participated in a book club, and had a more active social life than many 50-year-olds. On the other hand, a 68-year-old man, a neighbor of the 90-year-old woman, hardly left his home, not because of a serious illness, but because of fear, lack of support, a hostile environment, and a whole life of hard work that had left a mark. Chronological age said he was younger than her. Life, however, said the opposite. Why does disability increase with age? The answer has three inseparable layers: biological, psychological, and social. In the biological dimension, we often confuse change with decline. It's very important to be aware that every change is not necessarily a loss. Many older people develop extraordinary compensation strategies. They reorganize their day, prioritize what is essential, and distribute their energy better. Biology explains part of the process: loss of strength, change in balance, reduced vision or hearing, lower physiological reserve, among many other things. Biology matters, yes, but the environment matters a lot. An old friend says that at 90 years old, there are no aches and pains anymore. They are souvenirs of life. And those souvenirs, even if they hurt sometimes, also tell stories of survival, resilience, and paths walked. The physical changes are less important than they seem. Loss of mobility, for example, can be reversible. In the psychology dimension, the news is better than we usually think. Many authors have published research showing that, on average, subjective well-being decreased from 20 to around 40-50 years and then rise again, forming an EU-shaped curve. With age, many people develop greater emotional stability. a deeper ability to put things in perspective, and serenity that protects against stress. They live with less pressure and more perspective. And although some functions slow down, others, such as judgment, emotional regulation, or deep understanding, often improve. Old age, in many cases, is a stage of clarity. We cannot deny that there are diseases linked to the progressive aging of people that limit our autonomy and can end in unavoidable and important disabilities. Aging involves a progressive loss of physiological reserve. The body responds with less efficiency to injuries, infections, or efforts. As we grow older, certain conditions, illness or others, can turn daily tasks into real challenges. Not all older people develop several disabilities, but some medical conditions common in old age can reduce mobility, vision, hearing, or cognitive ability. This is why diseases that at younger age are easily compensated can cause significant limitation in old age. Disability becomes worrying when these limitations interfere with basic activities such as eating, walking, cooking, communicating, managing daily life, and others. Among the diseases that contribute most to disability are those that affect mobility. Some of these diseases are on the list in the slide. We are not going to comment on them one by one because we don't have time. Although this disease can cause disability, their impact is not inevitable. Early detection, proper treatment, rehabilitation, adapted physical activity, and accessible environment can delay or reduce their effects. Life attitude, social support, and adapting to the environment also influence how we live and manage the loss of abilities. It's in the social dimension where we find a big elephant in a small room: energy poverty, inadequate housing, isolation, architectural barriers, inequality in access to the services, hostile urban environments. When we talk about disability, we should ask less what is wrong with this person and ask more what is wrong with this environment. That biology explains 30% of aging and society explains the other 70% is good news because the social part can be changed and improved. The postal codes weighs more than the genetic code. It isn't coincidence that older people with fewer resources have more disability. And here we reach a crucial point. Disability in old age is, to a large extent, a problem of social design. It's not the body that falls. It's the world that has not updated itself because it doesn't respond to the specific needs to the aging process. If a traffic light lasts 8 seconds, the problem is not in the legs of the older person. If an ATM is impossible to understand, the problem is not in memory or vision. If a neighborhood has not benches to sit and rest, the problem is not physical endurance. Imagine neighborhood where sidewalks are narrow, uneven, and full of obstacles. An older woman stopping several times, not because she's tired, but because the environment forced her to. Every curb is a challenge. every crossing is a risk. Now, imagine another neighborhood only 3 kilometers away, where sidewalks are wide, with benches every 100 meters, where traffic lights last long enough and public transport is accessible. The difference is not in the limitations of people's bodies, it's in social design. Therefore, accessibility is not a luxury, it's a form of social justice that we should be able to demand. Most of our health system were designed for a world where life expectancy was about 60 years, where the disease that deserved special attention were acute disease, and where families care for chronic illness at home. That world no longer exists. The problem is the lack of adaptation and the lack of updating, but the systems continue working as if nothing has changed. The good news is that solutions exist. Multidisciplinary teams that work together, home care that avoids unnecessary hospitalizations, community programs that strain social connections, intergenerational space that break isolation. We don't need to invent anything. We only need to apply what we already know. Today, we live longer. We live with chronic disease, and families are smaller, more dispersed, and more fragile. Disability occurs when the environment doesn't support the life course of people, and it's here where health and social system must be updated. We understand the care economy as the space or place where the services and activities necessary for the social well-being of people are produced and consumed, whether at home, in community services, in private centers, etc. It's the invisible pillar that supports our societies, and yet is the least recognized, the worst paid, and the most feminine. The care community includes, among others, family cares, mostly done by women, unpaid domestic work, professional long-term care, social and community services, emotional and relationship support. Caring is not only a task. It requires a social infrastructure necessary, well-designed and adapted to changing needs. And it's probably one of the most necessary infrastructures of the future. Without this economy, the social and health system could collapse in weeks. Homes could stop functioning. Health systems could become saturated. The care economy is what allows people to work outside the home. If it disappears, massive drop in labor participation, especially among women, companies without the staff, drastic reduction in productivity. Economic impact is comparable to a global crisis. If we want to understand aging in the 21st century, we must talk about the care economy and understand it well. We live a paradox. The more the population ages, the more care we need, and the few caregivers we have. A society that cares is like a well-built bridge. It supports, accompanies, distributes the weight, prevents falls, but a society that doesn't care is a bridge full of cracks. And all of us, sooner or later, will have to cross it, taking the risk. Families are smaller. Most family members work outside the home. Community networks have weakened, and public systems have not grown at the necessary pace. The result is a silent crisis, care crisis. We need a new social care pact, a new social care pact that includes professionalization and dignity for the sector, financial support for caregiving families, accessible local services, alternative living models, technology that supports, not replaces, shared responsibility between men and women, shared responsibility between generations. The care community is not an expense, it's an investment. Every euro of every dollar invested in care generates employment, well-being, health, and social cohesion. Slowness. Slowness is not only a rhythm, it's a philosophical movement. The ethics of slowness propose recovering control of time from the madness of urgency and hurry. When another person walks slowly in front of us, we feel they are in our way. But there is another possible view. They remind us that life is not just a race. There are things we only see when we reduce our speed. In many cultures, slowness is a synonym of wisdom. In ours, it's synonym for impatience. Old age invites us to another rhythm, to observe, to listen, to understand, to connect, to share, to love. The ethics of slowness leads us to an important reflection. What kind of society do we want? One that pushes or one that accompanies? Old age introduced what we could call an ethic of slowness. We live in a world that idolizes speed, immediacy, productivity. The ethics of slowness invite us to value presence, listening, and calmness. And maybe in a fast world, older people are not a break, they are a reminder of what is essential. Disability, in the sense, is not a break, it's an invitation to change the collective rhythm. And maybe, if we think about it, society needs a bit of that slowness. Because slowness is not a defect, it's another form of intelligence. It's the intelligence of someone who no longer runs because they have already arrived. The two concepts in the title of this slide are probably two pillars of well-being in old age, just like autonomy and sense of purpose, which we mentioned earlier. Connection are the emotional infrastructure. According to a study from Harvard University, the quality of our close relationships is one of the main predictors of health and happiness. On the other hand, unwanted loneliness accelerates physical decline. It increases the risk of depression. It increases the risk of cognitive decline. It increases the risk of mortality. Unwanted loneliness is toxic and affects both the quality and the length of life on the person who suffers it. Sometimes loneliness is not visible. It lies behind a closed door, behind a polite smile, behind a "thank you, everything is fine," or "don't worry, I'm okay." That is why solutions to avoid unwanted loneliness cannot be only institutional. They must be community-based. A phone call, a visit, an invitation, "could you like to come?" can change a life. Fortunately, loneliness is preventable with community works, with meeting spaces, with intergenerational activities, with neighborhoods that invite people to go outside, with understandable technology. Company is a health factor. Company is a factor of autonomy. Company doesn't cure disease, but it cures something just as important, the feeling of being in the world. Company is a factor of dignity. Company is a factor in life, especially for older people. Participation not only prolongs life, it makes it wither. Participation is not a luxury or entertainment, it's a right. And it's also a form of public health because it allows us to feel personally and socially useful. When an older person participates, they feel useful, connected, recognized. Participation protects against depression, against loneliness, and against cognitive decline. I have seen people who seemed switched off recover vitality simply because someone invited them to be part of something, a workshop, a walking group, a cultural activity. Participation is one of the best medicine for healthy aging. Participation in community, participation in decisions, participating in activities, in short, participating in life. Participation maintains identity, maintains purpose, maintains self-esteem, and it's a predictor of physical and mental health. Personal human stories have a power that data doesn't have. They allow us to imagine. And when we imagine, we move forward through creativity. Every story of an older person who recovers autonomy, who finds company, who learns something new, who takes initiative, who goes out again, is proof that old age is not a territory of losses, but a territory of possibilities. Let us learn to listen to older people and learn from them. A few years ago, I met an 81-year-old man who lived alone and was a fragile man with mobility problems. We met in the waiting room of the health center. He told me he had lost his wife, that his children lived far away, and that he had stopped going out. One day, a neighbor, a young woman, knocked on his door and said, "We are organizing a walking group. Would you like to come?" He hesitated. He said he had no strength, that he couldn't be able to, that he didn't want to bother anyone, that he didn't know anyone. She insisted with a beautiful sentence, "We don't want you to come for us. We want you to come for you." Finally, he went. He accepted his neighbor's invitation. At the beginning, he walked slowly, very slowly, but every week he advanced a little more. And one day, after several months, he told me a sentence I will never forget. He said, "I discovered that I wasn't lacking strength. I was lacking company." Honestly, I think he had too much loneliness and lacked love. A 78-year-old man with Parkinson's disease created a reading club for people with tremors. Today, it has become the neighborhood social club attended by people of all ages. A friend of mine, 82 years old, founded a genetic analysis company. He had worked in the pharmaceutical industry and had dreamed of this for years. He waited until he was 80. He's doing very well, and one of his sons is now taking over the management under the first supervision, of course. a 70-year-old woman with a hand osteoarthritis to decide to learn piano because it has always been my dream, she said. She will never be a great pianist, of course, but she has found meaning in her life. Her greatest joy every day is when her young teacher arrives at her home. It's moving to see them together as a clear example of an intergenerational relationship based on respect. These stories, along with many others, remind us to something essential. Old age is not a problem. In fact, it can become a laboratory of human innovation. And if disability linked to age appears, we must accept it for what it is, the natural evolution of life. Thank you very much. For your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fontcuberta, for your interesting presentation. And here we have some questions and comments. Number one, what is the single most effective policy change governments could implement today to reduce disability and improve functional aging in future generations? And this is his answer. If I had to choose only one policy, I would invest in creating age-friendly communities throughout the entire life course. Disability in old age is not created only by biology. It is also created by inequalities that accumulate over decades. Policies that improve education, housing, working conditions, healthcare access, transportation, and social participation from childhood onward would have the greatest long-term impact. In other words, the best aging policy is not a policy for older people. It is a policy for all ages that reduces inequality and promotes healthy living throughout the life. Interesting. Now the second. It's here. Okay. How could healthcare systems, employers, and public policies shift in practical ways from using chronological age to assess functional age without creating new forms of inequality or bias based on age? The first step, this is the answer. The first step is to evaluate what people can do rather than how old they are. Healthcare systems can use functional assessments that measure mobility, cognition, independence, and social participation. Employers can focus on skills, performance, and adaptability rather than age-based assumptions. Public policies should be flexible enough to recognize individual differences. At the same time, we must be careful not to create new forms of discrimination. Functional age should complement, not replace, protection linked to chronological age. The goal is to see people as individuals rather than stereotypes. Give me 1 second. This is a third question. What interventions have you seen work best in helping older adults who have already experienced significant disability, loneliness, or social exclusion to rebuild purpose and have community involvement? And the answer is the most successful interventions are usually surprisingly simple and community-based. Walking groups, volunteering opportunities, cultural cultural activities, intergenerational programs, peer support groups, and community centers often have a greater impact than we expect. The key is not only providing services, but creating meaningful opportunities for participation. As I mentioned in my story about the older man who joined a walking club, many people are not lacking strength, they are lacking connection. When people feel useful, uh, recognized, and included, they often recover motivation, confidence, and sense of purpose, even when significant disability remains. And some comments. Thank you, Dr. Fontcuberta, for talking about caregivers. And congratulations, Dr. Fontcuberta. Very interesting presentation. And third, being an elderly and also a person with disability is very difficult indeed. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And the last one is, yes, loneliness is preventable. And that's it. Thank you, Dr. Fontcuberta.